All right. Would you want to make and explore a claim around that, or would you not feel comfortable doing that, like morphic resonance, or even you've mentioned divinity a few times? I'm interested in that and want to know if you would want to explore that at all, or if you don't want to, or if you have a different claim.
Yeah,
Any
we
of
can
that?
explore that divinity,
Okay.
or kind of wrap it all up in one. Have you ever heard of morphic resonance?
I've heard of Rupert Sheldrake mention that before and watched his TED talk, which was banned on it. So yes, I'm familiar with his discussion on it. I can't say that I understand the ins and outs of it, but I am familiar with it.
I can't say that I'm an expert on it, but I have a little bit of knowledge on it. And then like divinity, um, I'm I'm not a religious person, but I do have an intricate feeling of God within myself. It's like kind of like in the same instance with free will. A lot of the things that I talk about in that aspect kind of are like more of intuitive and just I'm very in tune with my feelings and I'm very in tune with my uh I mean, I guess possibly to go down the line of like mental health or like even like on the basis of hypothetically thinking of somebody who's schizophrenic or somebody who has invasive thoughts. I i can't i could never relate to somebody like that because I'm so familiar with what my thoughts are and um I'm just so in tune with what my mind is supposed to be like or what it normally is, that like if I ever had like some sort of invasive thought, I would immediately not it would not be able to impose upon my free will, I guess, if that makes sense. I would never allow that to happen. So I mean, that's kind of
Got you. Got you. I'm so what claims would you make about divinity? You talked about this inner sense of God, so I'm taking it that you believe in God. Um, but what specific claim could I explore here that you can make about the divine or about God
um,
that you wouldn't mind exploring?
um so let's see. I guess if I was I'm not sure if it would it definitely doesn't fall in any line of like religion or anything like that. But I mean, I do think that there's one source, one creator, and somebody of the highest power um, that has an influence and kind of like we discussed within the last conversation, kind of like what is within the greater good of all people and things like that. I think that sometimes things don't make sense, but I do believe that there is like some sort of higher power that does have that big all knowledge of what is within the good of all people, even if it comes to down to like um, lessons in life. It kind of counteracts a little bit of my free will thinking because I do think that there's like a really big basis of lessons that happen in life that kind of lead us down a path where um, our life is inevitably supposed to be headed. Does that make sense? I don't know. I'm not sure what kind of specific claim it would be.
Okay. Well, let me
Um,
let me repeat what I'm getting back from you, and you can just let me know if I'm mischaracterizing you or if you'd want to change it or anything like that. But there's one source, one creator, or a higher power that basically has all knowledge and specifically knowledge of what's good in all people. Is that the
or good,
idea?
good for all people. Yeah.
Oh, what is good for all people? Okay, thank you. Is good for all people. Got you. Okay. Great, great. So I'm wondering if you could, and this is probably going to be difficult, so I apologize, but if you could just define a little bit more about what you mean about this one source, the one creator, or the higher power. Like, how would you define this apart from having all knowledge? Is there anything else that you would define this thing as?
Um, Based on what I kind of believe, I don't think that really, I mean, I think even if you look at like theological studies, nobody really knows who or what God is. Um, it's not like a physical that you there's nothing physical there that you could even begin to reach. Um, I think that I don't know. I know that I pray a lot. I pray a lot, and I don't just pray to God. I pray to like I before I say a prayer, I explicitly mention what my intention is going to be imprinted into the cosmos, and I just kind of pray for guides and all deities that are good. And but when I am speaking, I do when I pause my sentences, I do say God. So um, I think that even if it's not like a specifically mentioned like divine source, I think that it's just kind of, I think it's kind of crazy to think that there's, that we didn't just come from from nothing.
So the idea that we came from this thing. So this is the, like you said, the creator, the creator of everything, correct?
Yeah, everything in this world.
Everything in
I
this universe,
it,
probably.
not really the universe.
Oh,
No, I
okay.
don't know. I'm not really sure. No, I
Hmm.
think that I think that there could be different aspects of creators of different universes. Um, so that's kind of why I say in a sense when I pray, I kind of clearly state my intention um, and I'm asking help from something. And I do feel like I get responses from that, especially in a sense where my integrity comes into play. I do think that the more integrity and um, good intentions that I push out into the universe and the cosmos, that kind of like in a sense karma, but really not really.
Okay. Would you say that this uh higher power is conscious?
I think that it is consciousness.
It is consciousness. Okay.
It is, yeah, it's the source of consciousness. Um, it's where our consciousness comes from. Like kind of like it's the creative of our souls because our souls are eternal.
Okay. Okay, got you. So it has all knowledge of this world, but not necessarily the whole universe. Is this fair to say? Or would you say it does?
So I I think that if we were to actually kind of sum up um, most of what I believe is that we are all gods, that we are all the holders of the consciousness. We we are the we are what makes up the universe. So I think that the power is really within ourselves. Um, so yeah, I don't think that it would be fair to say that I think that like that a God rules over the entire universe. I think that there's I think that there's like a source. I think I God source. I like to call him source more than I do anything else. Source, creator, it's the creator of all souls. Because I definitely think that our physical bodies are just that. I think that we're just physical bodies and that we have like our consciousness and our souls are tied. They can be separated from ego, from our physical bodies.
Okay. Okay. So you mentioned all knowledge. Um, and so
Have you ever heard of the Akashic records?
I saw you talking about that on the podcast that you were on. I think it was a podcast, right? On Twitch
Yeah.
and the Nephilim, right? You had mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm not at all familiar with the Akashic records. I'm familiar with Nephilim and different types of angels or um, celestial beings, but the Akashic records, no. Would you mind telling me?
Yeah, so that's kind of probably what I'm going that's probably what the definition of like what I mean by all knowledge is. Would be the Akashic records, AKASHIC, I believe.
HIC.
And so that's like kind of like it's kind of like the library of everybody's, it's kind of like the library of the things that nobody can hide from God himself or from source or from creator, highest power, whatever you want to call him. There's so many different terms for God, um, you know. But the Akashic records is basically where all of our intentions and all of our bad doings, good doings are stored. And yeah, so I think that that's kind of where all knowing comes from with that. I say he, but the source, the universe in itself knows everything that we do. We can go into a closet and pick our nose, and nobody's going to know but us. But really, it's known. And then the in the Akashic records, you can actually go. You're supposedly supposed to be able to go back and kind of be able to review those at some point. I don't know.
Okay, so this record isn't anything that's like on Earth. Like it's not like.
No.
Oh, okay, okay, gotcha. All right. Okay. Um. So we haven't mentioned anything about power yet, which is usually associated with God. I'm wondering your thoughts on that. The idea of God being like all powerful. I guess I wonder, is that an aspect also going on here?
Um, yeah. Oh, I guess. What do you mean by powerful?
I think I mean energy. So in terms of storing energy, God would really have an unlimited amount of energy.
Yeah. Um, yeah.
Okay. So just some I didn't mention this in the email, so I apologize. Don't feel free not to answer. But how long have you had the belief? If you don't mind sharing, you don't have to.
Uh, not. Um, I kind of went through a little bit of a transformation about, mm, well, about 10 years ago, I read the book, The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And that kind of like, it kind of gave me a basis of my life where I've always been a pretty, a, a person with a lot of integrity. But that kind of gave me a better basis of how to actually live my life outwards to where I'm able to enjoy my life more freely instead of feeling weighed down by all of my sometimes it feels like I have too much integrity and that I'm too honest sometimes. So about 10 years ago, I kind of got into those four agreements, and that really kind of changed my life. But as far as praying and actually thinking about the word God or thinking about what source and what kind of like the real meaning of life is, I would say probably less than 2 years ago.
Okay. And so prior to that, did you believe something completely different or similar? Like, I guess I'm wondering, did you still have a belief in a God, or did you not have a belief in a God? No
No,
belief in a God?
I I had a really, really, really I fell into some really hard times, and I kind of turned my back on any of those types of beliefs, just because I thought that if there was anything like that, he wouldn't, or it wouldn't put me through the kind of things that I had went through. But now I can kind of see how those lessons have shaped me into who I am now. So I'm more grateful for the things I went through.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing. Um, is there a community that you engage with at all based on these beliefs, or nope?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Um, okay. So back to the regular SC questions then. From 0 to 100, how confident would you say you are in this belief?
Probably like a 95.
95. Okay, thank you. 95%. If you defined everything pretty well, so thank you for that. What would, let's start with increase. What would increase your confidence that this claim is true?
Um, Probably if I was able to find more like-minded people who could kind of corroborate like what my intuitive feelings are, as far as, if I could find somebody who could put it in better terms than I did to you, that would definitely increase. Because like I said, a lot of what I feel and what I believe is more of an intuitive feeling. I've never like really put a definition on anything. So
Okay. I'm wondering if it's related to the community of having like-minded people. I feel like it's not. I feel like it has more to do with the explanation. Is that fair to say? Or okay.
yes.
Okay. All right. So just having people that believe what you believe, would that be enough, or would they need to be able to explain it better?
Um, yeah, if I could probably, yeah, if they could explain it better, if I could have a conversation with somebody who kind of was like, oh yeah, I think that too, I would probably, I don't really care about having a community of it, or like, like a church. I wouldn't be that. I probably wouldn't even like that.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So if you went to a community and they seemed like to have the same level of knowledge as you, or any places that you were confused, they were just as confused or more confused, that might not necessarily swayed you. Is that the idea there?
Yeah, probably not.
Okay. Let's talk about decrease. What would decrease your confidence that the claim is true?
Um,
If anything, I didn't mean to assume that something would, but if anything.
yeah, I'm not really sure. Um, I think that I could probably change directions in like some of like the certain types of beliefs if there was like a different um like set of ideas that were presented to me that kind of made more sense. That would probably decrease my like certain um ideals on a couple things, but or if there was like a or if like hypothetically if I did find somebody who could completely define it to me, and then I did go out and found a huge organized community of it to where it like was like seeming like it was like a cult, then I would be like, ooh.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. So if yeah, if you had this belief, you had these beliefs and you found a community that believed pretty much what you believed, but you could tell that that community was like cultish, that might
Yeah.
start to, okay, all right, got you. Okay. Okay. So again, the claim is there's this one source, um, or one creator or a higher power that has all knowledge, um, specifically of what is good for all people. That's still the okay. All right. So what I know that you mentioned intuition already, but I'm wondering if you can elaborate on what informed you or what informs you that this is true.
Um, yeah, I think that I think really like the biggest basis of it was coming to a point where I had to look at my life and see, and I had to look kind of back at my integrity. And I kind of made a point where I reevaluated how I had been living my life. And I was pretty pleased at what I had been doing. Um, and so at that point, I was like, huh, I've been kind of like fallen back onto the terms of temptation. I've been tempted with a lot of bad things. I've never fallen into that trap. I've really went through some hard lessons. I learned from those lessons, and I just kind of looking back at my life and seeing how these things, like the path that I had been led down, really kind of confirmed my belief into something um, greater than myself that has led me this way.
Okay. So the idea here is that, let me know if I'm incorrect, that I think the experience is that you started to believe or understand these things and that there was a change in your behavior and integrity. Is that close to what you're saying, or?
Yeah, or just that I had maintained a huge basis of integrity, even in like circumstances where I either didn't have to or I was tempted not to. I think that there was something else besides something higher than myself guiding me away from those things. And then like there's been a lot of instances like that I can look back on that um, there's really no other explanation to say than that I was just protected by something higher than myself, just like protected and kind of guided away from certain situations.
Okay. All right, great, great. So for the first thing that you said, the idea is, and let me know if I'm wrong here, but the reasoning that I'm getting from this is if something changes your behavior and it increases your integrity, then that thing is true. Is that the idea behind that? Changes your behavior for the
Yeah,
better. I apologize. Changes your behavior for the better and increases your integrity, then that thing is true.
yeah, I think so. I think it's really easy to fall, especially like like looking on on society, how people are just like careless in their actions. It seemed like I have like just like this huge amount of integrity, and I feel like it has to come from somewhere, and that something's been really guiding me
Okay.
without me knowing. You know,
Okay. I think two questions I have for you here. So one would be, what if, I imagine that you could probably imagine this is true, but I'm interested in your response. But what if you met someone who, their behavior and their view changed for the better, and they saw themselves as having more integrity, um, but that thing was the fact that that was a belief that there was no creator? Would this change your confidence in your claim or in the information supporting your claim?
um, not really, because I kind of like another aspect of it is kind of like within the law of one, that we are all kind of gods within ourselves. So I would kind of, if that person, I think that person could, um, it wouldn't influence my belief really, but I could see where that person was coming from. I wouldn't, you know what, I wouldn't think any differently of that person.
Okay. Okay. And in that hypothetical, that was a situation in which they saw that their behavior had changed for the better or they had more integrity. But now let's imagine that that person, you've seen them and their behavior has changed for the better and in your view, and their integrity did increase. And they explain to you that it is because they have lacked, it's because they stopped believing or they lack a belief in uh, the one source of the creator.
Mm,
What about this? Would this change your confidence at all?
not really. No.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
I think that I think that it would be based on their intuition, right? Because I think that your intuition really kind of guides you on your kind of basis of integrity too. So, yeah,
Okay. So
I
they
would
had
think that that
this.
person has a
Yeah.
pretty good intuition system. You know, they've got a good grip on, um, yeah, it's hard for me to explain.
Okay.
But
No
yeah, no,
problem.
it wouldn't sway my belief in anything. Or it wouldn't stop me from praying.
Got you. Got you. So the idea is that they have, so you have this intuition that helps you make positive decisions and has helped you make positive decisions and has increased your integrity, and you believe in this one source or this higher power. And it's the same thing with them, except they don't have the belief, or and they also see that belief as um being integral to their changed positive behavior and integrity. How can an outside person, somebody that doesn't know what to think, they're on the fence, how is there a way for them to distinguish between which one of you is right at all?
Hmm. I think that it would kind of come from the basis of which, um, I think it would come from the basis of which that person was, how they could define what's their idea of being guided. I'm not sure if they would even have, I'm not sure if they would even have to put like a basis of guidance on anything or if they would just give themselves all the credit. I don't know. Um,
So in this example, you're talking about the person that has the positive change in behavior and has integrity, but does not believe in the one source. You're talking about that person, right? Not the third observer that's not sure.
yeah. The third observer that's not sure what was he supposed to be doing?
So
What?
he's not sure which one of you is correct. He thinks that there
Mhm.
might be a creator, but there also might not be a creator. How could that person determine which one of you was actually correct?
In my opinion, I think that the third person would just have to kind of look, like meditate, ask
Mm,
themselves, look within themselves to find out, or you know, like really just look within yourself to kind of feel what your belief is and where you feel guided. Um, so
okay. So there's
for me, it
nothing,
wouldn't be a basis of who's right or who's wrong. Does that make sense? You
I
know?
think so. Yes, yes, I do. I am still curious if I think the idea here is that there's nothing externally that that person could look at to confirm or disconfirm this thing. It would have to be an internal investigation.
Probably, yeah. Because I think that at the moment, I think that any source of like I had said, if I had found a group of people trying to see this kind of stuff, I'd be like, oh my gosh. So I think that yeah, I think any source of like organized type of religion type stuff wouldn't be a good thing to like try to base it off of. I think going within yourself is, yeah, that's definitely what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like intuitively, like what you like when you go within inside of your mind and what you see and what you feel is like logical and correct. I think that's, yeah, there's probably not going to be anything you can see in the
Okay.
outside world.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier. You had mentioned you were talking about cult and cultish behavior.
Uh-huh.
I'm wondering if, I'm the third observer, or even from your perspective, if I, as the third observer, and am observing you, who believes in the one source, and somebody else who doesn't believe in the one source, but I assess, and this is hypothetical, obviously, your behavior as being worse than the person who doesn't believe, or vice versa. I observe that the other person who doesn't believe in the one source, I observe their behavior as being less good, or that them having less integrity. Do you think this should sway my view at all?
Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit.
What about
Yeah.
if you were observing that? What if you noticed that somebody else's behavior was more or less then, yeah, let's start the first way. Let's say you observe somebody and they don't believe in the one source, and their behavior is, in your estimate, better than your own. Would that decrease your confidence in your claim?
Not too much, but maybe a little bit.
Is the reverse then also true? If you observe them and their behavior is worse than yours, or their integrity is worse, is it the same answer? It would increase your confidence then, maybe?
A little bit. Yeah.
A little bit. Okay, great. um okay, all right. um So I want to go back just really quick to this idea of looking inward. So if one person can look inward and come to understand or know that there's one creator, and another person can do the same thing and come to understand or know that there isn't, is that reliable? Is that a reliable method for figuring out what's true or not? And that's a bit of a leading question, so I apologize, but I'm wondering still.
Yeah. I think that that for me, the concept of I don't nobody knows, right?
Okay.
So I don't think that anybody could make a definitive claim on, on what the one source or anything like that would be. I think I think it's just kind of like a more of like for me, it's a personal preference. If you wanted to assign a name to it, you could. But yeah, I don't know. I think that I think that there's at least some sort of outside force that um kind of calls the shots, and I'm not sure if it would be like from like a deterministic point of view. I'm not sure, like destiny and like how the time is like supposed to be like relative, like um but I do think that there is like an outside guidance for people, and I do think that some people just choose not to listen to it.
Okay. All right. So I think now I do have another question, because I think you've mentioned both kind of this idea that we are gods, but
Mhm.
then also this idea of an outside guidance. So I'm wondering if you can elaborate on that, because it seems like there's one aspect of it that is external and one aspect of it that's internal.
Yeah. I think that from the definition that we are, I don't mean to say that we are gods. God is like a broad term, but
Right.
it's our consciousness. That's what I'm speaking of when I say that is our kind of our consciousness. I think is a lot more powerful than what a lot of people think. And I think that consciousness in itself is a gift. Like I guess it's kind of a cliche term to say, but it's like kind of like a gift from God. Um, I think that I just think consciousness in itself is pretty divine.
Okay. So consciousness is divine.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so the thing that's guiding us, though, in your view, is something external.
Yeah. I think so. I think so. I think that that's like I don't think it's the only thing that guides us,
Okay.
but you know, I do think that um he wants what's best. I think that whatever it is wants what's best for us and wants us to do good and tries to. I think that there's a concept of like in order to realize good, you have to experience bad. So um, I think that that's why there's a duality in society. And I think that like even from the concept of like Adam and Eve, I don't I could probably talk about this forever. I've never had a conversation with anybody about this stuff, so I'm probably all over the place. But like Adam and Eve, I think that that's the concept of feminine and masculine divinity. I think that there's like a feminine aspect, like the good and the evil, and I think that you have to have evil or bad to be able to realize what good even is.
Okay. All right. I want to go back to this other piece of information that you gave, which is that there's no other explanation. The idea of there being no other explanation. I think I have a little bit of sloppy handwriting here, but I think the idea was that there's really no other explanation than that. Oh yeah, I can see what I wrote now. Than that you're being protected.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the idea here is if you have no other explanation for why these things occurred, then it must be that explanation. It must be that that one source that you were talking about. It must be some higher power that did that. Is that the reasoning there?
Yeah.
Okay. So my question then, my critical question would be, if someone has, like, let's say I don't have an explanation for why my phone works. I know that it works. I don't know how it works. And my explanation is that there are tiny little beings inside the phone making it all work. And that's an explanation to me. Does that mean that my explanation is correct?
No.
Okay. Okay. So do you think that having an explanation and not having any other explanations necessarily means that the claim that's being made is true?
No.
Okay. All right. And does that change your view on that piece of information or the claim at all?
Um, Not too much, I guess. Maybe a little bit. Um, but then I would just like turn straight back around and I'd go sit down and kind of look within myself and try to figure it out anyway.
Right,
But
right.
yeah, even if I didn't have any concept of God or one source or creator, all knowing, um, I would still have a massive trust of like my own intuition and like my inner consciousness.
Okay.
So I think even if tomorrow I woke up and decided that I didn't want to believe in God or anything like that anymore, I would still
Mhm.
believe in myself.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, I'm I'm wondering, and again, I think going back to that outside observer thing, or looking at somebody else, what would you say? Because I'm guessing this applies to you, but viewing somebody else who you see, let's say you see X person, and I can actually think of somebody, though obviously I wouldn't call them out by name, but they follow their intuitions pretty heavily, and their intuitions tell them, for instance, I think I can think of one example where their intuition was that they're adults and they're free, so they should spend more time taking care of themselves than their children. And that was their intuition, but that is what their intuition told them. So okay, so I get what you're saying. So now what you would say is that's not really their intuition. Is that the idea there?
I don't know. Maybe.
Okay. So I guess that's what I'm wondering about is
Yeah.
how can we accommodate for people who say that they're having intuitions, that we would look at that and say that's bad behavior, that's actually immoral. It doesn't seem to be. Does that change your idea about intuitions generally, or even your own intuitions?
No, I think that that person would need to probably look, like, I think that that person would probably be misdefining what the word intuition is.
How
I
would
don't
so
think
how
that
would
person would have a good idea of what that word means, in
Okay.
my opinion.
So then I think that the next question then is how do you define intuition?
Um, I think there's a lot of different ways to define it, kind of like that feeling, um, kind of, um, I mean, I guess you could probably even put a label on it as far as like psychic abilities, maybe even like being able to kind of know things before they happen, maybe, or I don't know. I'm not sure. But I think that or like I know that Christians call it like the Holy Spirit, like something that just like kind of guides you. I think that would probably, if you were going to try to talk to a Christian and explain intuition to them, you'd probably mention the word Holy Spirit. That's not what I would label it as, but um, um, I don't know. I think that your intuition is something that just like really, hmm, I think it kind of gives you a basis point on like some of the aspects that you outwardly promote. And it just kind of guides you in your life. And I think it honestly, I think it can be a little bit more like metaphysical, like to the point where, like if you're going to be going on like a drive and something holds you up for 5 minutes and you find out that there was like a big crash that you just missed because you stayed home for 5 more minutes. Um, Stuff like that. I don't know.
Okay.
Or I mean, for me, I think that my biggest sense of intuition is kind of like that little voice in your head that's just gives you inspiration. I have a lot of creative inspiration that'll just come out of nowhere. um I like to call it like my higher self. Like I do think that there's like a higher version of myself that's kind of guides me. um I think that a lot of inspiration, I think a lot of creativity is a really big aspect that I don't think a lot of people like really recognize. I think that creativity is like pretty much the whole basis of everything. Because if without creating things, then nothing, we would literally have nothing here in the.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I have a t-shirt that says it's by Einstein that talks about the importance of creativity,
Yeah.
even over, I think, intelligence or knowledge.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
okay, so in the intuition, and I know very well what you mean here, but just to reiterate some of these things, it's that feeling, right? Or that little voice inside the self, right? Kind of guiding you or speaking to you in some way, right?
Mhm.
So if so two questions here. One is I've kind of already asked it, so I apologize if this is just too similar to what I've already asked, but I want to make sure that I'm covering any bases that I can. If we're meeting people who are saying that they're following their intuitions or feelings, but we view their decisions as highly immoral, do we need to reconcile that, or is there a way to reconcile that? Like from an outside observer, right? I see
Mhm.
one person that says, well, my intuitions tell me to take care of my children, right? Or I know some people tell them, some people, their intuitions tell them, for instance, and this is just what they say, I'm not saying this is, if we come to understand intuition correctly, it might be different, but they their intuition tells them that some races are better than other races.
Mhm.
How do you view that, or how do, as an outsider, how could we reconcile one intuition from another, or the conclusions that come from them? How could we figure out which ones were correct or incorrect?
I think I think that that's more categorized as like a learned behavior. I don't think that's instinctive. I think that would be something that was definitely imposed upon them within society. I don't think that that would be an instinctive, um, innate and natural viewpoint. That's definitely something that's learned. So, I think that's probably what I would, if I was gonna have to say, yeah, that's a learned behavior. That's not instinctual. So
Okay. I'm wondering, is this informed by your intuition or something else? That conclusion that it's a learned behavior and not intuition.
I think no. Oh, oh no,
Is it informed
no.
by,
I think
yeah,
no, no. I think that like my opinion on those being learned behaviors. I think that I mean that's like super societal. Like that's I think there's obviously got to be like some sort of studies or something. You know what I mean? Like cuz there's no way. I just don't think I mean, I don't know. Maybe somebody can grow up to be like a racist and, like that didn't have that imposed upon them, but I would probably I don't know. I would estimate that like 95% of racists were either influenced upon by peers or grew up that way. I don't, it's just not a natural instinctive thing. I don't think.
okay. So then that leads directly into my next question, which was, let's say we figured out exactly what intuition was. Like we could study it scientifically, let's say. Okay, we could
Mm-hmm.
maybe that feeling that you get, we figured out exactly what chemicals correspond to it, and we know, okay, she is having these feelings, so this is an intuition she's having, and this is what she thinks based on that, off that intuition. And then we have somebody else. Let's say we have the racists, or the person that thinks that some races are superior to other ones, and we observe them and we notice that's the exact same thing that's going on with them, that they're having these feelings, the same, similar, or the same feelings as you're having, or they're even describing them that way, and it's leading them to this conclusion. Would that change your view on intuitions, and potentially by proxy the idea of the one source or something like that? Would it change your view on any of these things if that were the case?
Maybe a little bit,
Okay.
but not much. I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess it would. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. All right. um one other question that I'm thinking of, and I have to step outside of the SE role again because this isn't what we do in SE. Um, but the studies of tribalism among animals, or I mean,
Mm,
I would include myself in that category, but among
mhm.
animals that aren't human, let's say. Um, how do you have this idea that those are learned behavior? Are you imagining that animals are also teaching themselves tribalism, or um is it because to me the fact that it's happening in animals seems to indicate that there's some instinct behind it. I'm wondering
Mhm.
uh if you think about that all at all, or if thinking about that changes the conversation at all for you.
Um, I I don't believe that animals have consciousness, really.
Okay.
So I really don't, I mean, animals don't have free will. I don't think.
Okay.
I don't believe so. So I think that um any ostracization from animals, I think would probably be instinctual just out of a basis of like survival and kind of their place in like the food chain and things like that. I think that if an animal is acting quote unquote racist or the tribalism, I do think that that would probably be more like of an instinctual thing just as a means of survival and protection for their herds or whatever.
Okay. All right, so that
But
seems
for
that's
us it's different to me, like
right.
for us it's different because we're conscious. So,
Got you.
and we're all equal in terms of survival, right? It's not
Yeah.
like some people have really sharp teeth or anything.
Gotcha.
Sharper teeth than others.
Yeah, yeah. So the idea behind that is it may be instinctual for them, but us as humans, we should have different instincts or different intuitions. That's the idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
If
if there
you
was like a subset of humans that were like massively huge with sharp teeth and could easily be distinguished, I guess, you know what I mean? Like if there was like a giant species that were like, I guess, categorized as humans with consciousness, I would say that we would probably instinctually like try to avoid those people or like, I don't know.
okay. All right. Um, so if you came to find out that either animals actually were conscious, would that then change your view? Or if you found out that actually we weren't conscious, which might be actually harder to imagine. But let's stick with maybe just the if you found out the animals were in fact conscious, would this change your idea on intuitions and what's intuitive?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that sounds good. So I just want to revisit. It's just something that we do sometimes in SE, but revisit the 95% confidence. Is that is that maintained, or has it increased, or has it decreased? Where do you feel you're at after the conversation?
Your example of the somebody intuitively, I guess, saying that I think I think as long as the definition of intuition is defined properly, my confidence would probably stay at about 95. But if I was able to either come across or find out that my definition didn't match like what the actual definition was, it'd probably go down a little bit. But
Okay. So the second one's hypothetical then.
yeah.
Got you. Got you. All right. That was great. Thank you so much for all of that. I think we worked out a lot of important details and found out where the lines were drawn, which is essentially the point of SC. It's to explore people's beliefs and find out how they came to know what they know and where the lines are drawn in terms of how they build knowledge or how their confidence might change in it. Do you have any other thoughts or questions for me or anything that you want to talk about?
I don't think so. It was fun. Thank you for having me on. It's good. I liked it. I've never
Yeah,
talked about, I probably seem like less knowledgeable than what I thought I was going to be, but I've never even had a conversation with anybody about these types of things. So it was definitely a learning experience.
great. Yeah. No, I think a lot of what you're talking about is interesting. A lot of people talk about it. I'll have to look up the Akashic records. I
Yeah.
think that sounded interesting. Um, and yeah, let me know if you ever think of anything else that you want to talk about, and I'd be glad to have you on again, or just to even talk about this stuff more openly. I know that it was kind of one directional there, and that's just kind of how SE goes. But always feel free to probe me or ask any questions that you have about what I think or anything like that.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, thank you, Natasha.
Thank you.
See you.